So I just kept following what they said and I got sicker and sicker until one day I thought I was going to die. I woke up and I was looking down on my body. My service dog was on the bed next to me. I had my hand on her head and I'm
Oh my
looking at the two
gosh.
of us, but I could also see her face and her face was looking at me as if she was saying goodbye. My dog wouldn't leave my side, not for anything.
Wow.
And I really thought this is it because she won't leave me. I thank God for the life I had, and I was sad that it was as short as it was. And then I said, God, thank you for the life I've lived. But if you give me one more day, I'm going to figure out why I'm so sick. And I'm going to help other people because I can't be the only person who's going through this.
Welcome, Antoinette. I am really looking forward to this conversation because you have had quite a powerful trip, it sounds like. And I don't mean
Thank
in like the
you.
traveling sort of way.
Thank you for having me, Amy. I'm so excited to talk to the Green Living Now audience and tell them about this big adventure I've been on.
Yes, yes. So please start wherever you feel is the best place to start.
Okay. I was in the US Army for 11 years. I was trained in anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, infection control, disease prevention, general dentistry, and I also worked as an air assault qualified expert field medic. And all of that will become really interesting in a moment
Okay.
when I tell you my story. So I was rappelling down a mountain in Korea to help someone who had gotten injured, and the same conditions that injured him injured me. And I sustained a traumatic brain injury. I broke my back. I
Oof.
developed post-traumatic stress after the event. And the post-traumatic stress really wasn't from my injuries. It was from the rest of my military career. So I had physical injury and physical trauma, emotional trauma, the stress, the poor diet that you have when you're in the military. A lot of times you're not in control of what you can eat. And although I had a wealth of healthcare knowledge, and I was also a state champion athlete in high school and a competitive bodybuilder and powerlifter in the army,
Wow.
I had all of this knowledge of how the body works and how to keep it healthy. And I still became very sick 11 years into what I intended to be a 20-year career, and I had to leave the army.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
S- So you're saying that the PTSD played a fairly large role in the
Not at
health challenges?
first.
Not at first.
Initially, it was the physical challenges because I developed arthritis from my neck to my tailbone, my knees. I wasn't even 32 years old yet.
Oh my goodness.
So I had a severe debilitation, but I also had some cognitive challenges initially, which through occupational therapy and speech therapy I worked through. But then something happened. I left the military. I was able to get an MBA, learn two more languages, and
Oh my
recover
word.
from what I thought was recovering from my injury. I became pretty highly functioning, but I required 20 medications every day of my life
Oh
just
my
to
God.
make it through the day. The level of pain, it was just incredible.
I can't even imagine because I don't take any medications. And I know that the average American is on something like 6 to 8, but 20. Okay. Let's continue with how did you get through this?
It got worse before it got better. I left the healthcare industry, worked my way up through the tech industry as a woman in the late 90s, early 2000s, all the way to the C suite. I was a chief executive officer at a tech company. I had made it.
Good
I was
Lord. So you're an
full
overachiever
time.
to boot.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay.
I was on cloud nine, just living my life. And then one day I woke up and I couldn't remember how to start my car. I thought I was just having a bad brain day. What? Then I tried to log into my computer. I couldn't remember passwords. I was trained to make phone calls. I couldn't remember how to go to my contacts list and tell someone from work that I couldn't make it. So I went to my favorites. I called a friend. I told her I was having this strange problem, and she came over. Fast forward maybe 4 or 5 months later, I was using a walker, a service dog, and a full time caregiver, unable to care for myself at all.
So did you have a stroke or what happened?
I did not have a stroke. I had a series of chronic health challenges that I thought I was managing
Right.
all flare up at the same time.
Mm.
Widespread inflammation, pain from arthritis, ocular migraines, which caused me to lose my vision. And because I had recurring ocular migraines, what normally for most people would last to 5 to 30 minutes, I would have them again and again, and I might not regain my vision because you are completely without your vision. I can see colors and shapes in my left eye and nothing out of my right eye. And I would sometimes have to call 911 from the highway for a rescue
Wow.
because I went blind and I didn't know why.
Oh my gosh, this
I
is
couldn't eat.
incredible.
I couldn't hold down anything more than clear broth and liquids. If I ate old things that I've been eating my entire life, I'd either go into anaphylactic shock or I couldn't hold it down. And doctors did not know why. They couldn't explain any of this, so we didn't know how to treat it. So they were just managing the symptoms. And I thought, I trust the healthcare system. I come from this system. I
Yeah.
know the system. I know a lot of the protocols they're using. It all makes sense. So I just kept following what they said, and I got sicker and sicker until one day I thought I was going to die. I woke up and I was looking down on my body. My service dog was on the bed next to me. I had my hand on her head, and I'm
Oh my
looking at the two
gosh.
of us, but I could also see her face, and her face was looking at me as if she was saying goodbye.
Oh,
And I talked with my caregiver, and my caregiver said, tomorrow we're going to take you, because by the time we realized how sick I was, I really couldn't get out of bed. My dog wouldn't leave my side, not for anything, not for food, play, bathroom breaks, nothing.
wow.
And I really thought, this is it because she won't leave me. So I did what I thought was the right thing to do. And I was just in gratitude. I thank God for the life I had. I traveled the world. I'd known love and been loved. I had a good family. I had a good life, and I was sad that it was as short as it was, but I was grateful for what I had. And then I said, God, thank you for the life I've lived. But if you give me one more day, I'm going to figure out why I'm so sick. And I'm going to help other people because I can't be the only person who's going through this.
Holy smokes. And you were how old then?
I think I was about, let's see, if I do the math, in my 40s.
Oh
I think
gosh,
mid
so
40s.
incredibly young.
I just turned 58 last
Oh, good
week.
for
So
you. That's awesome.
yeah. I was thinking that I wouldn't wake up the next day, but somehow I did. And
Let me just ask you, so did you stop all the medication that day?
no, not that day.
Oh, not that day. Okay.
The next day,
Okay. The next day you
next day,
stopped.
I did. The next day I said, I know that what I've been doing is not right for me. It might work for some people because this was the 2000s and mid 2000s, and people were having conversations like better living through chemistry.
Right.
I was shocked that that's how they felt because I was trying everything I could to get off these 20 medications.
Yeah.
So for me, every medication I experienced the worst possible side effect. So, for example, if there was a side effect that could possibly take your life, that was the side effect I would have on
Yikes.
every medication. And then they try something else. And then they'd give me a medication to counteract the other side effects from a different medication. And then that's how I ended up on 20 of them. And so I decided that morning, it was the first time in 18 months that I could get out of bed on my own, get a walker and walk to get water, go to the bathroom, do all those things by myself. Nothing changed except I thought I was going to die. I was in gratitude. I decided I was going to make a change and turn around and help other people. That's
Yep.
the only thing that was different.
And this was the day after that?
the morning after I thought I was going to die.
Oh my. Okay.
So
That's incredible.
uh, immediately I knew what I needed to do. I come from a farming family. My parents come from a farming family. My father's family grew rice in South Carolina. My mother's family grew just about everything in Virginia. I spent all my summers and anytime I was out of school on my mother's family farm, riding horses and
Oh,
doing archery and doing all the outdoor things, farming and just playing in the soil. I knew instinctively that's what I needed to do and reconnect with. So I got out my health journals because I kept a health journal for, gosh, since 1999 till 2014. And I started entering data. I have an MBA. I love spreadsheets. If you talk to an MBA, we love spreadsheets. If
yep.
I thought about it, I would have handwritten a journal because the goals you make when you handwrite them
Yes.
are the ones you're more likely to achieve. But,
I've
you
heard that
know,
too. And you
I,
remember things apparently better by handwriting them versus typing it on a computer.
yes, absolutely. I,
Mm.
I don't remember the science behind it, but
Yeah.
someone did this neurological study to explain why. But I created a linking spreadsheet and I wrote symptoms of, and this is why it's so important to write down how you feel,
Mm.
what you've consumed, what you've eaten, what you drink, what your emotional state was, what your day was like. Did you have stress at work? Did you have stress
Mhm.
at home? Are you having financial stress? How much time did you spend doing something you enjoy? How much time as an adult did you play?
Wow.
How much restorative rest did you get? I used my journals to write all of these things down and I saw what I was lacking. I saw how healthy I was when I did certain things and how sick I was when I did other
Mm.
things. And because I put it in a spreadsheet, it was easy to make these correlations because I had linking tables. So then I just sat back and said, you know what? My old life is never coming back.
Right.
I can't go back in time. And I know I should call my doctor and step down off these medications, but I'm not taking another pill starting today. That was a very dangerous thing, and I don't recommend it to anyone. But I just knew instinctively that for me, those medications were acting like poison.
Well, it
And
certainly
I,
sounds like what you were describing of how you were having the worst possible reaction that anybody could have to each one of them. That certainly sounds like your body is saying, this is not working for us. So
and
thank
to
goodness
this
you
day,
listened.
yes, it's so important to listen to your body. And to this day, I really have to very carefully weigh whether or not I'm going to take a medication. Medications are very useful. They work faster
Of
than
course.
natural methods.
Yeah.
But for some sensitive people like myself, it just doesn't work out that way for me.
Yeah.
So I decided that I was going to create my new normal. And since I'm creating this new life, what is it going to be? The possibilities were endless. And so
Yeah.
what I told myself was, don't worry about what your friends might think or your social network or your work friends or what an future employer might think or your religious community might think or your parents and siblings. Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up in the world? What would make you happy for work and play? And where would you live? What kinds of people would you surround yourself with? Those were the questions I asked myself to develop my new normal. And that was a very easy step by step process for realizing that I'm never getting my old life back and what next, rather than getting stuck.
And do you think that having come so close to death gave you permission to do that, or was it something else?
I do think that is it. I personally, being the youngest of a family of five, I had a lot of pressure to meet my parents' expectations and my various communities' expectations. What would an MBA be if you didn't use your MBA, right?
All that
What,
education.
right. I had all of these tech skills because I worked my way up through the
Right.
tech world to the C suite. Why would I waste all those tech skills? But that life was killing me. So I
Yeah.
really had to say, I've got to leave all these things behind if I wanted good longevity,
Right.
because I could survive on medications and a walker and a service dog and a caregiver. I
Maybe.
wanted to thrive. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were coming up with all of this information, and it sounds like you were getting, I don't know what you call it, but it strikes me as almost like a spiritual download that you got this information partly from your body, but also it sounds like you were getting spiritual wisdom as far as how to live your life. How do you see that?
I really do believe that once I surrendered to the fact that I am not in control here and that something new is about to happen to me, and it's either the end of my existence
Mm,
or a new existence,
yeah.
it seemed like I was on autopilot. God was ordering my steps. And here's why.
Yeah.
I feel like once you decide that you're going to do something and you start acting as if you have already achieved it, the
Mm,
universe just lined up to meet you. There were challenges along the way that felt insurmountable, but I was able to go from so severely debilitated that I was an adult woman who had to rely on her dog to help her do laundry
oh, wow.
and another human being to help me take a bath or a shower, to becoming a sponsored whitewater kayaker, a sponsored overall adventure sports athlete at 53. And all of the sponsors thought I was 35.
That is remarkable. And how did you do that?
Listeners, take out something to write with. I hope it's pen and paper because it's so easy. There's absolutely nothing special about me. That's the genius of it. I'm just an ordinary person. The only thing that is different is that I knew to listen to nature.
Ah,
That's the only thing. I suspect, Amy, that your listeners already know that because they're here listening to your beautiful podcast
oh,
and they're connecting with all of the great information that you give them. So
thank you.
we don't even have to convince them
Yep.
that this is a good thing. They already know.
Yes, yes, exactly. I think that's an inner wisdom that many people come to this podcast with. And certainly sounds like you've tapped into it. So, how did you implement that awareness in your day to day life?
First, after I decided what I wanted to do, where I wanted to live, and
Okay.
who I wanted to be,
Yeah.
I knew that I could not live in the hustle bustle of a city. It created an overactive nervous system that just wasn't for me. I
I totally
also,
relate to that. Having grown up in New York City, I dreamt of living in a beautiful rural setting like where I live.
yeah, I grew up in a little, it's not so little, but I grew up in a greenhouse in Queens.
Oh,
And I
wow.
always thought, why don't we move to one of the family farms? I hated where I lived.
Oh,
So
boy.
the
I can so relate.
concession was my parents let me turn our backyard into a little farm
Oh,
because
cool.
they didn't want to move back to the country.
Yeah.
But I knew instinctively that I could not live in the uber competitive suburban environment either because I
Yeah.
just did not want to have to feel the pressure of trying to keep up with the Joneses,
Yep.
because that peer pressure is real to strive for more and the mimosa Sundays and
Yeah,
the
and I'll tell you
tourism.
a wild thing that I discovered. So my former sister-in-law, my brother's first wife, told me, and they lived in like the Needham, Wellesley, Massachusetts area. She told me years ago, she said, yeah, people are having more kids as a sign of social status and wealth to say, hey, we can afford 5 children and send them all to top colleges and this and that. And that was a thing that was being done
That's
to
incredible.
demonstrate wealth. And I thought, oh God, I am so
It's
glad I don't live
incredible
in
in a
that
bad
world.
way. Yeah.
Yike. Okay. Okay. So when you were going through this process of discovering where you wanted to live, what you wanted to do, all that sort of thing, how long did that take for you?
From the time that I decided what my new life would be to Moving to where I was living my new life to the fullest was 4 years.
Okay.
From not leaving my house for 18 months to moving across country to Colorado and living out my dream
Yeah.
was 4 years. Your period, I had to go from a walker and not being able to drive and not remembering how to drive and not being able to form full sentences. I could not have a conversation like this back then. It almost seemed like I had a stroke, but I did not have a stroke.
Right. And so you were starting to tell listeners to take out a piece of paper and a pen. And what was it that you wanted them to write down?
This is how you create your own new normal. If you're feeling stuck in your health, in your relationships, in your career, just feeling dissatisfied with life, here's the plan. The first thing you do is forget about what people are going to think when you come up with your plan. Write out a plan. If you didn't have to worry about education or training or money or the logistics of living this new life, what would you do with it? Who would
Mm.
you be? What kinds of people would you surround yourself with? What would you do for fun? The next step is wake up the next day and do one thing that leads you towards living this life.
Yeah.
So let's say it's going to be revamping your health. Like in my case, I woke up the next day and I thought, what's the one thing that I can do today? And mind you, I was very limited, could hardly eat. So
Right.
I decided I can only handle broths. So I told my caregiver, let's start to puree fresh vegetables into my clear broth. I was doing things that my healthcare team did not tell me to do. I was completely doing actually the opposite of everything they told me to do. They told
And
me to sleep a lot, to rest.
and so the caregiver went along with your instructions?
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Talking to my caregiver later, they really thought I was probably at the end of my life and they just wanted to keep me happy and comfortable
Oh.
and calm. And so they were like, I'm just going to go along with this because you probably don't have long. But
Wow.
then as I started to heal myself, they would encourage me to do more. Keep doing what you're doing. So I
Must have been
did.
life-changing for them too,
I think so. I think it will forever make them a better caregiver.
I would think. Okay, so you started adding vegetables into your broth. What was the next step?
Then, and once my health started to get a little better, I told my occupational therapist and speech therapist that I want new challenges. So they suggested that I do archery to retrain my brain for things that require focus. And in 30 days, it worked. My memory started coming back. My cognitive abilities went from at a 25% function to more of a 75 or 80%.
Oh my
I
god,
was
just
back,
by doing
baby.
archery?
Yes, just by doing archery, that one task. And
Wow.
then I started relearning the foreign languages I had learned. I speak four languages and I had forgotten a lot of even my native language, English, and started relearning those languages. And that also helped with neuroplasticity. Next, I learned to whitewater kayak in a heated pool over the winter. My service dog was freaking out every time I tried to roll my kayak upside
Oh.
down. And I credit that with getting me off the walker because it re strengthened my entire body. And
Wow.
it also gave me a social network. It's so important to get face to face with other humans.
Yeah,
Our energy, the energy we radiate breathes life into them, and the energy they radiate breathes life back into us.
absolutely.
That's why light therapy patches work. We give off light that we can bounce back to ourselves and it
Yeah.
heals our bodies.
Ooh,
I'm
are you
really,
using LifeWave?
I am, and I used it to reduce my chronic widespread inflammation by 20 points just
Ooh,
by adding patches.
wow. So are you doing X39 and others, or which ones work the
I'm
best for
doing
you?
I'm doing the entire lineup. Can you see my amazing skin?
Yes, I
The
can.
only wrinkle I have is right where I was injured. That's where I hit my head.
Um,
But I will
amazing.
be 58. Oh, I am 58 now. I forgot my birthday was last week, but
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, congratulations. Oh my
thank you.
gosh. And so your skin looked older, I would imagine, before you started doing the patches.
Yes. In fact, because I lived in Colorado, even though I have dark skin, I was starting to see sun damage and
Oh,
fine lines and wrinkles. And so I started out as an adventure sports athlete and they thought I was 35. It quickly looked like I was about 40 because in 2 years, I aged a lot from the sun.
oh my
Yes,
gosh.
I really did. And so the La Vida, I think is the name of the patch that's for
That sounds
skin.
familiar. Let me write
It
that down.
has been amazing. I credit that and collagen peptides.
Ooh, okay. I've got collagen peptides that I keep forgetting to take.
I oh,
I'm going to
secret
be
weapon.
renewed dedication to
Yes,
doing that. Thanks to you. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you're using a whole bunch of different LifeWave
I
patches.
I do, and I'm in the process of being able to very soon, probably by the end of December, 1st of January, I'll be able to consult. So if someone
Oh,
reaches out to me, I love taking listener questions on my podcast. And
oh,
if
nice.
someone wants to ask me, these are the health challenges that I have, what patches will help me? I'm going through training now to be able to tell you what will be the
Oh,
most
that's really
beneficial for
cool.
you.
And I'm sure you know about the new water machine that's coming out.
Yes, I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. Would you just quickly tell people what that's all about, since probably a lot more of the details than I do?
I'm not sure that I'm supposed to talk about that yet,
Oh, okay.
but I plan on doing an entire episode dedicated to it.
Oh, sweet. Okay. And the name of your podcast for
It's
folks?
New Normal Big Life.
Okay, so like the sign behind you.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the earthy colors and all that neat stuff that you've got. That's a tree of life in there?
It is the tree of life.
Nice.
Yes.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. So you're wearing patches, you're training for whitewater rafting. Is that in a special type of pool that actually creates water movement, or is
No,
just a regular pool?
so whitewater rafting is a group sport. This is whitewater kayaking. It's an
Oh, okay.
individual sport, although you can get a tandem whitewater kayak.
Okay.
So you just go to a regular swimming pool. Usually they'll have a day of the week where it's just for kayakers to come in and work on their paddle sports skill. And so you learn how to paddle efficiently and safely. You learn how to roll your
Oh,
boat upside down because the river will capsize your boat
yes.
frequently or sometimes, and then you'll need to right yourself back up. And I paddle with people who have had amputations of
Oh,
one or more legs, one arm, but they do adaptive paddle sports. I kayak with blind kayakers, for example, and they are paired with someone who will use sound that the blind kayaker will follow that sound.
oh my gosh. And
So,
they actually go out into a river
yes.
eventually?
And yes, in fact, Eric Wymier, a friend of mine, actually, he and Lonnie were the first two blind people to ever kayak all 277 miles of the Grand Canyon. If you can imagine that, doing it blind.
I cannot. I can't imagine doing with sight, much less blind. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you're practicing your kayaking skills. Are you eating solid foods at this point?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
In a very short time, I realized that I needed to clean up my gut microbiome. And
Oh,
every
okay.
specialist, every dietitian that I ever talked to in the early 2000s, no one ever mentioned that. It
And
was
yet
never
we
covered
all,
in any of my training.
because it's not a conventional medicine thing, but yet, or I should say, and what we know now, those of us who are in a more holistic focus, that is such a key to good health and good brain function, right? There's such a connection between the gut and the brain and the gut and every other part of the body, especially the immune system. Wow. Okay. So what did you start eating?
Oh, lots of fermented foods. So I lived and worked in Korea for a year and I happen to love kimchi. I ate tons of kimchi and sauerkraut and I fermented my own red cabbage
Mm.
and lots of my own canned pickles. I grew them and fermented them myself.
Ooh, how lovely.
Lots of canning. I just really went back to the old ways that my parents practiced. My parents were children during the Great Depression and they lived on a farm. And so they know what it's like to only survive on the things that you could grow yourself, forage,
Right.
hunt, or fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they taught me those skills, and I just needed to go back to all of that. So, foraging is actually a huge part of what I do. I forage here in the ice belt in the North Woods. So, all around
And
I was growing some herbs and tomatoes and leafy greens in containers on my balcony of my condo.
yeah.
And that was one of the indications that I really need to live in harmony with nature. So
Mm,
I moved out to Colorado. I lived in a suburb, but it was on the edge of town where the dirt road met the paved road
oh,
across from a ranch and a lake with a view of the Rocky Mountains. I was 20 minutes from Rocky Mountain National Park,
ooh, pretty.
riding horses in the Colorado Rocky Mountains foothills and just living the whole life. My oldest brother's 14 years older, and he gave me a series of books about the Mountain West when I was about 8 years old.
Oh,
And I
wow.
envisioned one day that I was going to ride horseback through the Rocky Mountains. I was going to go to Cheyenne on railroad business. I used to tell him
Wow. And you did achieve this riding
I did
horses
do
and
that.
holy mackerel. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love when people have a childhood vision. I loved reading childhood books, in particular, the ones that had adventure, whether it was My Side of the Mountain or there was this one called Understood Betsy. And having had a daughter, I got to reread all of those books with her again and reimagine because as a city child, that was one of the ways that I imagined where I wanted to be once I got out of high school and moved on to college. It sounds like you had a similar kind of experience with the vision through reading these books gave you something that you didn't see in your day-to-day life at that point.
Exactly. And reading is a great way to try on new personas and new
Mm.
careers and just living a different way. And that really resonated with me as a very young child. And I always thought one day I'm going to retire and do these things. But my body said, you need to start doing these things now or you won't make it to
Yeah.
retirement.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've heard too. A couple of thoughts came to mind. One is, I forget who it was that talked about how many people that they spoke to that were on their deathbed and their biggest regret was not having tried something or not having done something that they had wanted to do. And then that whole other issue of people, as soon as they retire, then some sort of health issue happens and they never get to do those things. All the more reason why, if you feel called to do something different in your life or there's a curiosity, it's so good to follow it. Sounds like that's
Oh,
exactly what you did.
I agree 100%. And listeners, I believe that you get this already, but a lot of your friends and family probably don't realize that one of the biggest reasons that we are so sick is because we are disconnected from nature.
I
And because
agree.
we're disconnected from nature, we don't know how to care for nature. We don't know
Mhm.
how to be stewards of the land and water because you care for the things you love. If you don't have a relationship with something, you certainly don't love it and don't know how to
Right.
take care of it.
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight that point because I think it's so powerful that we don't necessarily see ourselves as connected to nature, or especially people that live in cities and suburbs may not realize that we are all part of the same web of life.
Water is so important to your body. And what is water? It's a natural substance. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I do is replace electrolyte.
Mm.
I get 8 ounces of filtered water. I squeeze a fresh lemon into it. I add some Himalayan sea salt and create my own electrolyte drink. Then I take it outdoors. Doesn't matter if it's raining or if it's minus 10 degrees. I go outside and drink it, looking into the sun, not directly, just
Yeah.
slightly away from the sun. Get the natural vitamin C, even if it's on a cloudy day, that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's how I start my day. I gently wake it up and give it hydration and electrolyte.
Yeah, and I think there's something else that's happening when you're in the sun from the first 3 hours from sunrise. My understanding is that sets your, melatonin levels or circadian rhythms, I forget.
Which
But there's something very magical about that first 3 hours of sunlight. And like you said, whether it's a cloudy day or not doesn't necessarily matter. And the vitamin D3 production that our bodies do in sunlight without sunscreen. So 15 to 20 minutes at least without anything on the skin is a great way to develop the D3, which we all need. So yeah, beautiful practice.
you said it exactly right, Amy. Yes, it helps to regulate your circadian rhythm so that you produce melatonin so that you could fall
That's what it
asleep
is.
at night. It helps you produce your natural vitamin 3, which is so much more bioavailable than any vitamin 3 that goes through your digestive system. Even though I do take 5,000 international units of vitamin 3 because I have dark skin, it's harder for me to absorb sunlight and to not have low vitamin D3 levels. That's how
Yeah.
much I need to supplement
I
every
take it in
day.
the winter. Like in the summertime in Vermont, I feel like I get enough natural sunlight that I don't need to supplement, but in the winter, I definitely take D3.
Yeah. And also by not eating during that first hour, not eating any solid foods during that first
Mm.
hour, it finishes or completes the metabolic process so that your body is set for elimination.
Mm.
It's ready to start absorbing nutrients again.
Yes.
And so if you have coffee the minute you wake up, you interrupt that.
Yeah. Good point. Wow. Okay. So connection with nature, eating foods that are healthy. Besides the fermented thing, are you doing anything else special as far as diet that you want to share or
So I made sure that I moved to a place where I could grow as many vegetables and fruits as possible. We have a forest, but we're also planting trees that grow edible fruit.
nice?
And we have our garden. The chicken coop goes in this spring. We had to struggle on how to keep the chickens warm in such a cold
Oh,
climate and
right.
do it inexpensively, but also as naturally as possible. We don't eat a lot of the fish that we fish
Yeah.
because we want to be good stewards of the waterways. So
Yeah.
we practice catch and release occasionally, you know, one or two fish per year just to deepen my connection to nature. I'll eat
Yeah.
one or two fish that I catch with my own hands because there's something primal about the accomplishment of going out with your bait and catching a fish,
Right.
being in gratitude for that fish, cooking it up over an open fire and eating it. It's
Mhm.
just something about it.
I think it takes us back to our roots where that's how we survived.
Exactly. And most people don't realize your 21st century life is the thing that is killing you. The overprocessed foods laden with toxins. I did an entire episode about the 12 toxic ingredients in your food labels, and you can print out a list of what to avoid in the store.
Wow, you and
Example,
I are a lot more aligned than I even realized.
that's why I'm such a fan of your show.
Oh, thank you. Now I got to start listening to yours too.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I love step by step plans because you probably know this, Amy. Lots of people have podcasts where they give out so much great information, but people are very busy and
Yes.
they're often multitasking, like driving and listening to a podcast or working out and listening to a podcast. You might not remember all of this great information.
Right.
And you have to be a bit of a self starter to say, I learned this new thing. Now I'm going to go put it into practice. I like to make that easy with step by step plans. So my expert guest, or if it's a solo episode, I like to give you something that you can download, print out, save to your phone, and look back and say, oh, this ingredient, this olestro, or this monosodium glutamate, or natural ingredients, which is also disguised as monosodium
Oh,
glutamate
the
or
natural flavors, you mean?
MSG. Yeah, it's natural
Yes.
flavors. Yes. So I outline in that episode and in the downloadable list
Yeah.
all the different ways that toxic ingredients will show up on your packaging because it's not always labeled the same thing, even though it is the same ingredient.
Yep. Yeah, I actually did a whole deep dive of 100 different label claims to figure out which ones actually were meaningful, which ones were somewhat helpful, and which ones were just total junk. Like all natural is totally useless. Or even wild caught was questionable.
Exactly. Oh, I'm going to have to listen to that episode. I haven't gotten there yet.
I have an ebook that actually talks about all of that I wrote, but it's also included in my clean eating mastery course. Yes,
I
it's such an important topic because a lot of women in particular, and we're the ones that typically are doing the majority of the shopping and things around the house, cooking included, even when we're thinking that we're buying healthy, there's so much that's misleading us on purpose. And that's where I got into this whole topic. I was really into food growing up, but when I read this non-toxic baby book when I was pregnant and realized that there were all these toxic chemicals legally allowed in everyday household products, nobody was talking about it, much less regulating it to protect us. There's so many loopholes that they can fit in underneath that allows a lot of this junk, much of which is banned in other countries, which I know you know. So that download that you have available, is that something that the listeners can access?
Yes, you can just click on the link in the show description and download the list. You can also subscribe to an nbl.blog, and each week you'll get a new list of things that you can have access to download.
I'll put that in
Use.
the show notes so folks
Thank
can
you.
access that.
Thank you. And so the other thing I want people to remember is that it's important for your body to move. Our modern lifestyles, they keep us sitting a lot. Even if you have a standing desk, that can create other problems for you. Your
Mhm.
body is designed for constant movement, changing your position. We were hunters and gatherers. We were running, walking, squatting, reaching, bending, lifting all day, every day,
Yep,
and our modern lifestyles has taken that away from us.
indeed. And so what are the things that you're doing on a daily basis in order to keep movement going?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question because we live on such a rural property and we've only lived here for 2 years. We've really been doing a lot of forest management. So I lift 100 pounds every day, not every day, but often by myself because I'm a former competitive bodybuilder. I used to have a 200-pound bench press, a 350 squat, and a
That's
500-pound
great.
deadlift. So I'm actually slacking now.
Considering you came back from almost being dead, it's amazing that first of all, that you're alive, but that you're thriving in such a remarkable way. Wow. Okay, so you're doing things in the forest, which is requiring you to lift heavy things and move a lot and
Right.
wow.
So forest management, you want to process those down limbs and logs and
Ah,
trees
yes.
because later they'll become kindling if there's ever a forest fire.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also you have to thin out your forest so the strongest trees can spread their canopy. And then we supplement our electric heat with wood burning stove. So
Oh,
we're able
nice.
to use that indoors, and we can use some that is not appropriate for indoor use because it
Yeah,
would create too much creosote and potentially a
yeah,
fire
yeah.
and smoke and unhealthy conditions. So we
Right.
use that for burning outdoors for campfires. That
Nice.
brings me to another point.
Okay.
We often cook our dinner outside leisurely, even in the winter,
Oh,
even when
cool.
it's minus whatever outdoors. We go outside, we cook on an open fire, or we cook in a Weber charcoal grill. We sit out in our warmest clothes we have, and we're just out at nighttime in nature. And if you
Wow.
don't cook outdoors, if you don't do yard work outdoors in winter, you're just running from your car to your house and to the next building. And then you get further disconnected from nature. You start to hate the winter, and then
Mhm.
seasonal affective disorder or SAD can kick in.
Yeah, good point. Oh my gosh, there's so much good information here. I feel like I'll have to have you back for another one. Before we go, is there one thing that I didn't ask you that you wish that I had?
I just want to round out for your listeners who want to take this journey.
Yes.
When I decided that I had to leave the tech community behind because it was just too physically and emotionally demanding. I decided that I was going to be a writer. And in the process of developing my own writing voice, today I'm a health and wellness columnist at Cultures, Culturs magazine. There are 1.5 million readers in 200 countries. Get to hear me go blah, blah, blah about health and wellness and adventure. And I love it. But while I was finding my writing style and my voice, I was a ghostwriter for others. And I took a workshop on how to become a ghostwriter. I arrived home and created a profile on a Sunday night as a ghostwriter. And by 1 p.m. the next morning, I had my first contract to ghostwrite a book. That's how quickly, when you are in alignment with nature, with God's mission for you, with your purpose and your passion, it just all lines up for you. And every step of the way, miraculous things happen. Like, for example, I asked a friend, how do I break into journalism? Because I keep getting, no, you don't have a journalism degree.
Oh,
And I had an MBA and I didn't want to go back to school.
right.
And so she said, I know someone who owns a magazine. I'll get you 15 minutes and they'll tell you how to get your foot in the door. Because I had received 200 no's. Most people would have given up after 20. I was still looking for my way in after 200 no's. And so I went into this meeting fully prepared. I had a sample of my writing on my phone. I only needed to type in an email address because I thought if this person makes a recommendation for me somewhere, I want to be ready for this opportunity. So I didn't show up like I was going to meet a friend for lunch. I showed up looking like I was going to an interview at a magazine.
Yeah.
And I walked out of there with a job, my first writing job,
Oh my gosh, after 200 no's.
after 200 no's.
That's
So when I
incredible.
say my plan is simple and that anyone can do it, I promise you, I've helped, I don't know, by now, thousands of people
Yeah.
make the same change. People who were sicker than me, people who have less resources than me, financial resources, education resources, less opportunities, and more constraints. They've all been able to make the same transition that I have to living their best life. And you can do it too.
That is so fantastic. And you've hit on so many important pieces. Yeah, this is a gold nugget or many gold nuggets for folks to take. Even one little piece of what you've said to implement that, I would imagine will make a definite difference in people's lives.
Thank you so
Wow.
much, Amy.
Thank you, Antoinette. This has been amazing.
I'm so excited for what the green living community is going to create in their lives. And I hope you will tag me on social media so that I can celebrate you because I know it's going to be incredible.
Absolutely. I want to hear about anybody's changes too. And maybe underneath the episode on YouTube, they can comment and also get in touch with you directly and find us on, I'm sure you're on Facebook, and are you on Instagram also, LinkedIn?
I am not on Facebook yet, but I
Okay.
am on Instagram at NNBL Podcast, on
Okay.
X at NNBL Blog, on LinkedIn at Antoinette Lee MBA, and TikTok at New Normal Big Life P.
Oh, cool. You're on TikTok. Fun. Okay. I'll have to find that too. Yeah. So all of those things that you just mentioned, we'll make sure are in the show notes so folks can easily connect with you.
Thank you so much. This has been so fun. And I love Breed Living Now. Thank you for doing what you're
Oh,
doing. You're really helping so many people.
well, thank you so much. So are you. To
You
be continued. Thank you so much for listening today. If this podcast opened your eyes to what might be possible outside of the conventional systems, or simply gave you a new way to think about healing, that's exactly why I do this work. If you want more conversations like this, along with practical guidance for detoxing your food, your home, and your life, I'd love to have you join my free newsletter, Notes from the Rebellion. It's where I share the things that I can't always fit into a podcast episode, deeper insights, simple swaps, surprising research, and tools to help you live a less toxic, more eco-friendly life without the overwhelm. You can sign up at my website, greenlivingnow.com, and you'll find the link in the show notes. It's completely free, and it's the best way to stay connected and keep growing this community. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you next week.